Hey, my name's Shelly. It's Monday, so welcome to the vlog. This vlog I decided to do a little bit different and have a bit of a themed vlog. Since SPFBO 9 is up and running, and if for those who are not aware, SPFBO 9 means self-published fantasy blog off, and it's hosted and created by Mark Lawrence, the writer, Mark Lawrence. And this is the 9th year. And what happens is whoever wants to enter their book into the competition, there is like a group of, I think 10 teams, I believe. I can't remember the exact, let's say 10 teams. 10 teams, and each team gets a pile of books, and they all have to go through it and pick a semi-finalist. From that list, they pick the winner for the year. So it just started, and they're kind of like slowly picking their semi-finalists. I think I'm going to wait a little bit longer to start reading from this year's lot, because honestly, there's so many good selections, like so many awesome looking covers. It's really hard to decide which one I want to read, but I do have my eye on a few of them. With that said, I thought it would be a fun idea to read from previous years, but specifically from recommendations that my favorite YouTubers have given. But since I don't have all the time in the world, I thought it would be fun to read a sample chapter, like the first chapter of a bunch of books I chose from specific YouTubers, and kind of see if I can find a new favorite from those chapters. I'm not going to give the synopsis of these as of right now, but once I start actually reading them, I'll provide more of a synopsis. So the first book that I want to read is Sufficiently Advanced Magic. This was recommended by Sufficiently Advanced Lena. I mean, how could I not want to read a book that Lena had named her entire channel after? Like that's love. That's dedication. And she's been screaming about this book for, I don't know, as long as I've watched her channel. And although the only reason I haven't been in a rush to pick it up is because it is a progression fantasy, and I'm not really one for progression fantasies. I think they're okay, but I'm not always drawn to them. So this one was in SPFBO 6 or 7. She has raved about it, and how could I not try to pick it up? The next book I would like to sample is The Trials of Ashmount. This was recommended by 2 separate YouTubers, Leslie from Nerdy Narrative and Andrew from Andrew Wizardly Reads. I can never say his name. Andrew's Wizardly Reads. Oh my gosh. Yes, so 2 of them have both read this book quite recently and have said it's fantastic, but it is dark. And I don't know if I'm ready for a dark one yet, and I am faint of heart, so I don't know if I'm ready for a dark fantasy. I mean, Andrew said it was the darkest book he's ever read, I think, or the darkest book he's read this year. That's a lot. Like that's scary to me. But they both say that it's such an excellent book, so I would be silly to not try and give it a go. Although I don't think this was actually a SPFBO contestant, so like, let me know down below. I don't know, but I can't really find much about it, and I can't even buy a copy of it for some reason. But I can get it on Kindle Unlimited, so that's where I'm going to read it. The last book I want to sample is A Legacy of Brightwash. This was recommended by Taylor from Made Between the Pages, and the way she talks about this book is just, I wanted to go and rush to pick it up right then and there. It looks so good. I know nothing about it, nothing. But I do know that there is a mother character or POV, and honestly, I'm looking for more fantasies with mother POVs that are not middle-aged women with grown children. Like, I'm looking for more relatable, like 30s with, you know, little children, something that I could relate to a little bit more. So instantly, that really grabbed my attention. And I would have to say, out of the 3 that I have mentioned so far, I'm most excited to read this one. With all that said and out of the way, let's get to the vlogs. Okay, I thought would give a quick update. I actually started Trials of Ashmount, and I'm on the first page and already I have thoughts. So first of all, you open up, and I guess the legend with all the characters' names is people who may die, which is awesome. And then like the third page, you're introduced sort of to a character named Charity Bang. She's a prostitute, and her name is Charity Bang. I'm sorry, that's like the fucking best name ever for a prostitute. Oh my god. Besides that, it's already started off to be like super grotesque. Kind of remind me of like Game of Thrones, although I never actually read A Song of Ice and Fire, but like that kind of like grim, dark vibe, which I'm not sure I'm feeling. But honestly, the names and the titles alone is enough for me to continue on. So I'll continue on. But yeah, I'm on like third page and I have no idea what it's about. But yeah, Charity Bag. I'm so easily entertained. Okay, so I finished the first 2 chapters of Trials of Ashmount. And man, is it graphic. It's a graphic, like, gritty world. Definitely grimdark in my opinion. Very well written. Extremely well written. I will have to say that I still don't know what the plot. After 2 chapters, I still don't know what the plot line is. I had to read the synopsis on Goodreads, but basically it's about 5 POVs. I think they attend this like university for magic, where they teach magic, called Ashmount, and that's pretty much all I know. I don't think I'm gonna be continuing on with this book as of right now, but didn't mean to give the finger, but I definitely can see myself when I'm feeling the mood to read grimdark, that I'll pick it up. Honestly, I'm not a grimdark person, so I never really reach for it, but the odd chance I sometimes do. So overall, it was a pretty good reading experience, very well written. Okay, so I finished the first chapter of Sufficiently Advanced Magic, and yeah, there's no denying that this is a lit RPG. Like, the first chapter is basically him going into a chamber, picking out equipment and weapons, and when I play RPGs, that is like, the beginning is my least favorite part of the game. Like, I hate the tutorials, I hate loading up. I just want to get into the game and start playing. And this is what this chapter felt like for me. It was like just a tutorial. And so obviously, that doesn't really work for me. I decided I'm going to continue on to the second chapter because I did read the first 2 chapters of Trials of Ashmount. So I got to be fair to all the books that I'm reading. Yeah, and the other strike against this is its first person narrative. That is usually either a hit or miss for me. It could go either way, but I am definitely noticing the first person narrative in this. I do like the backstory that he's kind of given, but right now for me, that's not enough to grip me. So let's see what chapter 2 has to hold. Okay, so I finished the second chapter, and it was more or less the same as the first chapter. He's just moving through these rooms and kind of like in a Jumanji style, where he has to complete these puzzles, and if something bad happens, if he doesn't do the puzzle correctly, something bad will happen. So he has to move his way up this tower in order to reach the goddess and like win the game. And if he does, he will be granted like special abilities. But he's actually going up for a personal reason because his brother previously went up the tower and never returned. So he wants to go up the tower to see if he can get his brother back. Yeah, so the story is just kind of like, I guess you follow this guy up the tower, and right now it's not engaging enough for me, but I can definitely see this turning into something completely exciting and different from the first few chapters. But overall, I mean, if you like lit RPG, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I do like the magic system, and there is a bit of lore in it. So they talk about some goddesses and gods. So yeah, and I guess getting each family has like their own special power. So it's definitely has potential to be something much bigger. So, but it is a pretty big book. Like, I was actually surprised how large it is. It's like 675 pages, which is cool. But yeah, okay, on to the next one. Okay, so I started, well, not really started, I opened up Legacy of the Brightwash, and there's an author's note right off the bat. And yeah, I'm not sure if I can read this book right now. I'm going through a lot of like personal things, but right now it's a pretty dark note about it says, "Thank you for joining me here in the Domination. I can't remember her Teshi's story depicts a scene of scenes containing and or discussing instances of miscarriage, abduction, drug and alcohol use or abuse, prisoner abuse, police brutality, racism, and torture." And although I find it's very important to read about these topics, I'm in a place right now where I don't think I can do this book, but I'm still going to give the first chapter a read because I think it's very important to complete this vlog. But she even says at the end, "Take care of yourself, and even if that means skipping this book. Love, Kay." And I can't remember, what is the author's name? Crystal Martar. So with that said, I'm going to read the first chapter just to see what's about. I think it's very important to push ourselves to experience different things, but I think it's equally important to know yourself and to know what you're capable of. And I know myself, and I know that I get very easily affected by certain things that I have mentioned here. And I know how it affects me. And although I don't tend, how do I say this? It's not like I avoid it, but if I can, I will. You know what I mean? I really appreciate the author discussing this and bringing this to attention and saying, you know what, I understand that it's not for everybody, and that's okay. And I really appreciate that a lot. So I'm going to read the first chapter, and I will see you back when I'm done. Okay, so I'm actually like, I think it's the second page, and already I can tell, I think it's about like almost like a cop kind of thing. But there was this quote in here, and there's this part in here that just kind of summed up being a new parent, and I think it was beautifully written. So I'm just going to read it real quick. It has nothing to do with the story, I don't think. Babies cry, and you do your best to comfort them. Eventually you find the thing that helps them, and they stop. Sure, you were so tired that you couldn't think, and you began to wonder if they'll ever sleep again. That is 100% like you have a newborn baby, and that will cross your mind. Like, will they ever sleep again? Will I ever sleep again? What if I never, like, you go into panic mode because you're so used to not sleeping that you think that eventually you won't ever sleep. But obviously you will. And that's one thing I have to tell new parents, is that your baby will sleep. Your kid will sleep again. They may be screaming their heads off and it may suck a lot, but just know that your baby's going to sleep. So I thought that was really well written. Okay, so I actually filmed my reaction video to the first chapter of Legacy of Brightwash, but the audio was choppy and it couldn't be salvaged. So unfortunately, you don't get my immediate reaction, but I can just recap it quickly. Basically, there was a lot of child brutality, not a lot, but there was child brutality in the first chapter, and already that was like warning signs just going off saying, no, run away. And, you know, I didn't realize how much of like a murder mystery it was. So combine those two elements, it already is just, you know, the stop sign just flashes for me. The world was pretty interesting. It kind of reminded me of like a gritty Victorian style world, kind of like when Jack the Ripper was around. Like that show Carnival Row with Orlando Bloom that's on Amazon, that kind of feel, like the gritty, dark, grainy world. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, overall, just, you know, with like the murder mystery and the brutal world, I think I'm just going to have a hard pass on this book. Although I'm sure that the story is phenomenal and probably very much worth the read. But for me personally, I know myself, so I have to just stop right there. That makes me sad, because honestly, I thought that this was going to be the one that I was going to continue on with. And oddly enough, Trials of Ashmount is the one that I'm like thinking about continuing on with. Probably not immediately, but eventually one day. And I think I will probably continue on with Sufficiently Advanced Magic, like audiobook, but I'm currently reading the Cradle series, so I want to complete the Cradle series first, and then I will continue on with Sufficiently Advanced Magic. So overall, I mean, it wasn't the best, but I got to test out some pretty awesome books. So with that said, I'm going to give you a quick update on what I am reading. I finished Yumi and the Midnight Painter yesterday morning, and it was so good. 5 stars, 5 stars. If you asked me before I picked up this book that if I would like to read a romance written by Sanderson, I would have said, no way. Like, the only book that I like of his that has a romance that I don't absolutely hate is Warbreaker. Like, besides that, the rest of them I can just do without. But this one was so good. This is probably my favorite standalone that he has written. Honestly, it wasn't until the end, like while I was reading it, I was like, man, this reminds me of something besides, like, you know, anime. I'm like, this really reminds me specifically of something. And it wasn't until the end, and I was listening, because I listened to the audiobook, and I listened to his acknowledgements, and he talks about that his inspiration comes from the game Final Fantasy X, which is one of my favorite Final Fantasy games. Like, and I'm like, oh, it connected finally. Even the main character, Yumi, is the same name as our main character in Final Fantasy X. Even her like similarities is the same. So I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. So yeah, if you like Final Fantasy X for like the story and the little bit of romance, you will definitely love Yumi and the Midnight Painter, 100%. Let's talk about what I'm currently reading. I felt so incredibly bad that the 3 books that I selected, out of all the 3 books I selected, I decided to not continue on with any of them. Like, it was just kind of depressing to me. So I decided to pick up Along the Razor's Edge by Rob J. Hayes. This was recommended by Taylor from May Between the Pages and Cassidy from Covers with Cassidy. And I have very similar tastes to them. Obviously, it's not one for one, but it's similar enough that I can pick up their recommendations. And I didn't want to vlog it because I was like, oh, great, I'm going to fail at another read. But I continued on, and I'm already at chapter 10. I'm listening to the audiobook. The audiobook is free for Audible members. So I'm listening to the audiobook, and it's a fantastic audiobook. Like, I really like this narrator. I'm at chapter 10, and I'm loving it. Basically, it's about this girl, Eska, who is telling her life story, and she is a sorceress that gets basically thrown into a prison of war because her side of the war lost. And she is now in a horrible underground prison with her best friend. And it's just her story navigating this. And I think at the time she's 15 when the story starts. So she's pretty young. And it's just her navigating through this horrible prison. And it's not a nice world, but I like it so far. Although Never Die was not a 5-star read for me, I really did like his writing style. So I'm super, super happy that I'm enjoying Along the Razor's Edge. Physically, I am reading the sequel to, oh God, Serpent in the Wings of Night. And this is the Ashes and the Star-Crossed King. Okay, so previously, I'm going to put this down because it's heavy. Previously, I stated in a vlog a couple weeks ago that this was a candy book and the character work is not good. I was wrong. I eat my words. Sorry, camera shut down for some reason. Yeah, I'm just devouring this book. And like, I don't know, for my previous vlog, I had a lot of trouble reading physical reads, but for this one, I'm just like sneaking away to find time to read. You know, like I'll sit on the ground while I'm making dinner to read this. It's very addictive. This weekend seems like it's going to be a very busy weekend, so I'm not sure I will be able to update. I'm happy to say that I finished Along the Razor's Edge by Rob J. Hayes, and I loved it. Like, I was not expecting to be emotionally affected by this book as I was. Like, I don't usually cry when I'm reading books, but if I were to, so many things, it's not even the ending, not that it's not giving anything away, but so many things about this book were so emotional, so impactful, and really hit home. And I especially liked the deep dive of like children soldiers and how it affects their mentality and the choices that they make growing up and what happens once they are removed from that situation. It's almost like, you know, coming out of being brainwashed, it's how they react to that, being removed from that like structured situation. And Eska's character is quite complicated. And I would have to say that although I don't personally enjoy narration style when the character is telling first person perspective and telling their life story, because I feel like I don't like the like unreliable narrator, and I don't like the dropping the hints of what happens in the future. But this one was masterfully done. Like, although I found it a bit repetitive how she kept saying, oh, I'm such a bitch, and oh, I'm a horrible human being, and oh, I should have known that, and like, but she was always constantly giving advice. And that kind of got a little bit repetitive how she kept saying the same things over and over again through her narration. But besides that, the characters were really good. Like the two characters, Eska and, oh my God, what's his name? Yosef? I listened to the audiobook, so I can't remember how it was written. But those two, I felt so much for them. And all I wanted was them just to be together. And I was getting so mad at all the situations that happened, especially at Eska. She made some bad decisions. She even says it in the narration. She made terrible decisions because she was a 15-year-old girl who had a lot of power and then was thrown into a situation where she didn't have power anymore. So she was making a lot of unwise decisions. So because of all that, I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I think I'll give it about 4 stars, only because the 5-star takes away from like the narration thing that I just mentioned before that I don't really like. I loved it so much. I'm moving on to the next book, The Lesson Never Learned. Like already, I think I'm on the 6th chapter. I'm listening to the audiobook. And yeah, already this first like 6 chapters, I'm like, oh no, it hurts so much, but I love it. Okay, so just a quick update. I actually started Ashes. I don't know if I mentioned this before that I started this book, but I started this book, The Ashes of the Star-Crossed King, and I have not made a lot of progress. I'm only 120 pages in, or sorry, 220 pages in. I had a busy weekend, so I did not have really any time to read physical reads, but I'm hoping to have this finished by the end of the week before I go on vacation on Friday. I'm enjoying this book a lot more than the first one, mainly because we are removed from that tournament trope and we're dealing with an expanding world and a lot of political stuff and you know, dealing with grief. So there's a lot of themes in here that I really enjoy, and I do like the couple, because they're not technically a couple, but I do like the couple in here. and it's now 2 POVs, which I really enjoy. I don't think I'll love it as much as other people love it. Like, I'm not going to be, like, this is not going to be one of my favorite series, but I'm definitely enjoying this read for sure. The next update is, what am I reading? I am currently reading, I know what I'm reading, I just can't remember the name of it. Okay, so the other audiobook that I am listening to kind of like on the side is Fire Falling, the second book in the Air Awakens series. And the reason why I'm kind of listening to 2 audiobooks is because I actually started this audiobook first before A Lesson Never Learned. But then I found that they Fire Falling and the Ashes of the Star-Crossed King were kind of similar. I mean, they're not similar, but like the tone was sort of similar, and I was kind of, there was a lot of overlapping themes. So I decided to like also listen to it while listening to the Lesson Never Learned. I'm doing a lot of thinking lately, and I find that I watch a lot of YouTube channels, and I am so easily influenced when somebody says, oh my God, look at this amazing book, I just read it. I'm like, oh yes, I want to read that book. And then I go and get it, and then I don't read it. And I've pulled myself too thin with so many series that I want to read and complete. So I think for the rest of the year, you know, I always say something, but it always turns out to be false. But my plan is for the rest of the year, I would like to focus on completing some series that are actually complete. Like, I can do it if I want to, I can complete these series. And I also want to focus on more indie self-pub books. So that is going to be the focus of the next latter half of the year. So I have to finish, I'll just give a quick update of the series that you probably will see in future vlogs. I want to finish the War Eternal series by Rob J. Hayes, so I have to finish The Lesson Never Learned, which I'm currently reading, From Cold Ashes Risen, Sins of a Mother, and Death's Beating Heart. So there's 4 more that I have to finish. The Dandelion Dynasty. So I have Wall of Storms to go. I have The Veiled Throne and Speaking Bones. So I have those 3 to go. So that's quite a lot. The Rook and the Rose trilogy will be completed this summer. So I had to finish The Liar's Knot and then The Labyrinth's Heart. So those 2 books. I would also like to finish the Ice trilogy by Mark Lawrence. So I have to finish The Girl and the Mountain and The Girl in the Moon. So those 2 will be done. I would also like to finish the Mistborn Era 2 by Brandon Sanderson. So I have Shadows of Self, Bands of Mourning, and The Last Metal. So I would like to get those under my belt also by the end of the year. Obviously, I would like to finish the Air Awakened series by Elise Kova. So I have Fire Falling, Earth and Water's Wrath, and Crystal Crown to finish. And I will be honest, I'll probably finish those by the end of the summer because they're short reads and I have the whole audiobook. And I may finish the Mortal Techniques, like, anthology, I guess it is. I don't know, by Rob J. Hayes as well, because I have also all of those on audiobook. And yeah, I'm sure that there's more that I am probably forgetting about right now. Oh, Cradle. I want to finish Cradle. I've only read the first 3, so I have a lot more to go. I'm not a big fan of Cradle, but I want to finish it because I do like some themes about the series, and I'm very interested to see where it goes from there. There are some series that are complete that I would like to finish, but I don't think I'm going to get to them by the end of the year. The one being the Symphony of Ages by Elizabeth Hayden. I'm not going to finish that, but I would like to put a good chunk in. And also the First Law series. I have to read pretty much all of them except for the first 2. So I would like to read that one as well. So those are the series that I would like to really complete by the end of the year. I really want to focus on them. So I got to get my butt into gear and like read them, because I have been so, I don't know, I've just been so all over the place. Like everything, every day I'm like, ooh, I want to read that. Ooh, I feel like this. Ooh, today I feel like grimdark. Ooh, today I feel like a romance. Ooh, today I feel like cozy read. Like today I feel like a cozy read. So I might pick up Legends and Lattes. Basically, those are the books that I want to get to by the end of the year. Like I want to complete them because I've been starting too many series, and I want to complete some series before I start more series that I want to start. So that's my priority right now. As for the next vlog, I'm going to be on vacation, and I'm going to try my best to, one, read books, and two, vlog, because I'm going to be at a beach, and it's going to be lovely. So I hope to see you next week. Bye.